Hey everyone, this is GosuDad, and welcome to Game 3 in my run in Season 6 of the Blizzard Online ladder, CuePhoenix vs arousedCouch, Terran vs Terran on the map Shakuras Plateau. Hey everyone, this is GosuDad, and welcome to Shakuras Plateau, Terran vs Terran in the cross positions. So myself playing Terran in the red, CuePhoenix in the lower right hand corner, and in the cross position from arousedCouch, playing Terran in the blue in the upper left-hand corner. Will not comment very much on that name, this being a family-friendly, kid-friendly, casual-friendly show. So Terran versus Terran, boy, on Shakuras Plateau. What is there to say here? So let's take a look at the map setup. We've got our main base here, as I'm using those panning controls quite a bit. Short little ramp, standardized ramp size down to your natural. Natural very exposed. We can look back here in the back side and see lots of room for drops, etc. Nice little hidden area behind those shrouding bushes, and a, when I first started playing I thought this was a pretty wide entrance ramp, but it's kind of medium. It's small enough that you could possibly wall it off, but large enough that I would not recommend it. So Terran versus Terran. Suppose there's some question about early expanding. It is a big map, in ways. I mean, let's just follow this SCV as he goes across the map. Checking out the close by ground positions, of course. Those would be terrible places to start, but that does happen in the online ladder. I do not think that the Blizzard version of this map has removed those cross position places, which you can see both arousedCouch and myself both scouting those out. So arousedCouch going all the way in to check out that base. So that's very important to know right away, whether your opponent is in that close by ground position. That is a very terrible place to be, and there's a lot of pressure that builds up from those two bases being so close to each other. So somewhere around this point, we're going to find out that we are in opposite places. Now, arousedCouch did do the cool thing and check out his Xel'Naga Tower on the south-hand side, and I didn't do that at all, so that's bad on my part. But arousedCouch is going to be able to come in, and I keep saying that name, the blue player, arousedCouch, whatever. Checking it out, he does see me wall off right away, and that, oh boy, that says something. What does it say? Now he's keeping this SCV here. It's possible for him to take pot shots at my SCV as he walks around the supply depot building it. That's one of the funny things about how Terrans build buildings. But he's going to be keeping his SCV over here to see when I expand. That's a perfectly fine idea. My SCV has made it all the way into the base, and I'm not sure how much he saw that I was there. He's looking around. Where is that SCV? And I think he's going to trap me over here in this corner. Oh, that is terrible. Terrible micro by Terran players, and he's going to be able to kill my SCV. The first kill of the game. Let's bring up that little counter. Whoa, look at that blue. Okay. All right, once again, not casting this from a sports casting style, but looking at this in review. So arousedCouch building that factory. Now that's kind of an interesting choice. Factory so close to the barracks. Would be expecting maybe a tech lab going down for the barracks, so the factory can jump onto that barracks very quickly. I'm almost surprised that he has it so close to the front. That's just waiting to be scouted out by an opponent. Wow, tech lab down almost instantly from arousedCouch, the blue Terran player with the semi-appropriate name. Double refinery going down, and orbital up on my side as well, and double refinery going down. Build's looking pretty similar. I think I have one more barracks than he does. Checking around his base, but looks there you go, second barracks. So these two players keeping up very well with each other. So just from a review standpoint, we're looking at the 5-minute mark. We're starting to build some tech structures. Factory's done on my part. I think his factory is done on, well, his factory's been done for a while. So he had his factory done for quite a while. Going to have a tank out here very soon. The one difference here, I think, is he did not have a second barracks out as soon as I did, which is why I have an army supply that's only one more. I think some of that's the tank that he just built, or that is building right here. Because don't forget, units that are being built, I believe they do count in the supply counter there. So coming down for a natural expansion and building a bunker down on the low ground. So I don't know, just an interesting kind of passive game down in Silver League. Starport going out for myself. Wasn't quite sure what I was going to do with that. Hopefully I'm researching some tech over here with this tech lab, and it's not just for Marauders. Okay, a bunch of Marines coming over to put on some pressure, but that tank that was built by that factory so quickly, a factory, by the way, that is not building anything else, has been built, put on the low ground, and a bunker, he will be able to hold this off and probably even keep the Marines out from putting on any pressure. I don't see any other action going on the rest of this map. And if you've ever the sense that your opponent has decided to turtle up inside their base, it does essentially give you map control. So we'll see what happens here. I think these Marines just wait here for a while. One Marine going in that barracks. Now that can actually be a very powerful deceiving strategy to put one Marine in the barracks, because it can be difficult for a player to glance at a barracks, a bunker, and be able to tell how many people are inside of it. I think you get the little flashpoint marks from the different sides depending on who's inside it, but you know, it might look like that there's 4 guys in here when there's only 1, so that can be a nice little trick there. I think this Marine was rallied up and he just died, so no going in there. And of course I know that I am behind in the expansion note. So here I am building my command center. I think his command center is almost done, so the blue player is staying ahead of the red player. Blue versus red. And Banshee coming out. So nice little going for that Banshee thing. Now losing all those units, what is that, L for units lost? You can see that I lost a ton of resources in that attack that really wasn't necessary, and here's the blue player sending out that SCV to check things out. Mr. Couch, we shall call him. So, and supply blocked with a Hellion. Just don't build the Hellion and build some SCVs instead. Man, that's just terrible on myself. I think I just brought something now. Was that a mule? Yeah, it was a mule. I am no, not supply blocked anymore. Must have been one of those drop things to supply depots. No, maybe not. Don't know what happened there. Banshee moving out. Do I have Banshees over here yet? No, I don't. Making an orbital command, so really behind in the economy game. Let's bring back that production tab and bring up the income display so we can see that second base doing alright for Mr. Couch, but that's because he's only got a handful of SCVs on it, and I don't think he has a full... Well, that's a pretty close to a saturated mineral line, I guess we could try to tell. That's going to be an interesting thing, by the way, in Heart of the Swarm. One of the UI improvements they have in Heart of the Swarm is a counter, a little display above your main bases, which says how many units are mining or resource gathering at that base. So, on one hand, I think that's very handy for us lobies down in Silver and Bronze League to be able to tell if we can add some more workers. But of course, it does add yet another little thing that the pros had to do. They had to do this type of stuff to see how many workers they had on their mineral lines that they will not have to do anymore. I've also heard that in Heart of the Swarm, your units, when you first start the game, you know, those 6 worker units, that those automatically go start mining resources. You don't have to tell them to start mining. So, yeah, I guess I have some mixed feelings about that. I mean, it is nice to simplify the game, have some of these units be a little more automated. That is pretty cool on one hand, but it also does remove some of those micro ability there. That is pretty cool to have. Like, you'll notice, like, for example, this Marine came up and he turns around, right? That turning around was Mr. Couch controlling that Marine and telling him to turn around. If that was just an automatically, you know, that's just, I don't know, that's just not as cool. That's less room for players to improve and showcase skill against each other, which managing all these little people is skill in an RTS. That is one of the metrics for the skill factor. So keeping control of both of these Zelnaga towers now, again, kind of trying to keep in mind, even though we're watching a Terran versus Terran, what are some things I can do as Zerg in these situations, and definitely keeping vision using these Zelnaga towers. Now, you'll notice that both of these Zelnaga towers gives me complete vision over what happens in the middle and all of the typical entrance paths for large ground armies coming in the middle. Especially with both of them taken, he'll have to spread units to both sides to see what's going on, and I'll know something is coming up. So that is a very good tactic, but of course, if I have any suspicion that he's still back on 2 bases, I should go ahead and safely expand to a 3rd, and we can see a lot of money being banked up by both players. So there's definitely a lot of room to do that, and of course, definitely a lot of room to be building more production structures, which you can see another barracks being built here. But if we looked at Mr. Couch's base, he has 2 factories, and wow, he has got quite a few barracks, and just finished building a starport. So he didn't have starport support, air support, until this time. This group out here not sieged up whatsoever. Going to be checking out. Looks like he's looking to expand out to a 3rd base, and perhaps choosing this 3rd base instead of choosing this 3rd base, which kind of seems surprising, but this one is kind of closer, and the pathway over to destroy it is perhaps not as centralized as he would like, but perhaps he thought that I was coming up here and building a base because I had some Banshees up here. And he's going to be able to catch these Banshees off guard, which is really good on his part. Should cloak these Banshees right away, at least make him use up a scan. Oh, and a second one coming in here just to die. At least focus on those tanks. Well, at least one tank. A couple of wasted shots on Marines. So here we go, 2 base Terran versus 2 base Terran. Terran's kind of turtling up, but the blue player being more aggressive, which is very good. I think these forces could put on a lot of pressure at the front door. And one thing that's interesting with this setup is that to get to a 3rd base from this natural expansion's pretty safe, kind of nestled in close to your main, but the only places to expand are this 3rd down here, which requires me to enter this main area in the middle, and I'm fairly exposed to an attack from this direction. Or, of course, there's the going the crossways, which is what Mr. Couch may be doing. But you see, this is a long ways, too. I mean, whoa, that's so long I cannot even pan easily. I have to use a larger portion of my massive StarCraft 2 mouse to pan all the way over there. So that means that any expansion after your natural expansion, there's some risk there. And there's some spreading, there's some increase of multitasking required. And that can be taken advantage of by the player who has map control. You know, Mr. Couch coming back to his main base and saying, nah, maybe I don't want map control. Maybe I want to stay back here. But at this point, the Army Council, just check those out. 74 to 56, he's got an advantage. He could go in and do some damage here. Let's check out the unit tab and see how we are in the tank count. So 4 tanks on my side to 3 tanks on his side. I do have a Banshee, but the Marine count is just hugely in his favor. Now, a couple of siege tank blasts can really bring that advantage down. So you'll notice that that's a very key thing we saw right there, right? I saw the army coming in. The Hellion was even there to get attacked, so I know something is going on. And then when I look at my minimap, I can see that one of the Zelnaga towers has been taken, so I know that he is on the move, or at least setting up some kind of defenses or something like that. So that is a big indicator. Now, I don't... this is such a weird choice mistake, however you want to say it. I think I wanted to expand out to a 3rd, but look at the range of this tank. His attack range does not even cover this ground army up here. So this tank is... Basically, this tank is only going to attack once these guys are gone. Because in a Terran versus Terran game, all of your units are... all of your units are ranged. And so there's no point in having a tank that barely covers the army units, because these army units are going to be... By the time the enemy units come to where these army units are, they're going to be gone. So this tank really needs to be forward, or these army units need to be pulled back. And if I'm not going to be expanding soon, there's no important reason for me to be out here. Now this tanker out here, extremely exposed. This tank, I think, in a pretty good position. And again, this tank, I personally believe too far back. Now he will be able to cover Marines coming in to attack this tank. But again, I think just the placement of these tanks is not very conducive for any kind of concave. These units could be moved out further. Like if you look at the range of this tank, if the units were out up here, then they could force attacking units to kind of stop at this outer tank range, which would be the preferable place for that to be. And now all of these units just being selected as one massive group and told to move around. Once again, wonderful Silver League control there. Kaboom! There goes that Marine, and we know that we are in serious trouble. And this is an interesting choice. I think he was trying to catch me off guard at a potential 3rd base location, which is a good idea, or perhaps just saving it for an elevator into the back. The Marines coming out, trying to kill off... I don't know what they were trying to kill. I think I said attack move, which that's a serious mistake. They should be trying to shoot down these Metavas, because the Metavas can do a terrible amount of damage, gaining vision onto the high ground as well as doing drops. And now he's got a bunch of Marines in the main, and all of my units are outside the base. Not only are they outside the base, but they're also behind a wall at the entrance to the main. So at this point, I tried to move in the units into the back to try to do a counterattack, which is a terrible mistake against a bunch of sieged up siege tanks. So those siege tanks being able to do a terrible amount of damage, because don't forget, every time the siege tank fires, he does an area of effect over here. And of course, an area of effect with a bonus against armored units against a bunch of tanks all balled up is just, you know, totally awesome. So Mr. Couch just showing that he had some really good ideas by bringing that group down into here to prevent me from going to a 3rd, doing an elevator, but you'll notice he only elevated with the Marines. He kept the tanks on the low ground to be in a defensive position, and that worked out perfectly, because when I tried to do a counterattack on the other side, the tanks were ready to go. So now we see how much damage these units can take from tanks. I don't know, do I have a tank around here somewhere that's hitting these guys? I had a tank somewhere. There's a tank somewhere that's hitting these guys. I don't know where, because they're getting hit by something. But yeah, so good game. Post game, let's go. Wow, so that was an interesting game. You know, as I was watching the game, I was kind of remembering, oh yeah, this is what happened. I totally forgot about him doing this elevator into the main, which, you know, this is just such a risky thing for him to do, having these units over here on the low ground. But you know what? I didn't have anything in my base at all by moving those tanks forward. In a sense, by moving those units forward and taking over those Lanaga towers, you know, he kind of puts me on the defensive. I start thinking I need to guard my natural, but this is just totally wide open in the back. And another thing that I didn't mention when I kind of outlined the map is that there's a lot of back area to the main over here. As I point to the screen with my hand instead of my mouse, there's a lot. Oh, and we see this battle up here. Just look at that. That's just terrible. You know, the battle's so much in his favor, he didn't even have to watch it happen. Even though these Marines were stuck behind the minerals, it just doesn't matter. Siege tanks, 5-6 siege tanks all together attacking into those, terrible mistake. Now, I think what was happening is I was assuming that he was going to take his siege tanks, unsiege them to elevator them into the mineral line. So I was hoping to catch him when he unsieged, and of course he didn't, because he was busy doing something else, and they were able to completely annihilate that group of tanks. Which goes to show in that turn versus turn matchup, tanks are extremely powerful when sieged up. When they're not sieged up, they're still pretty strong, but nothing compared to them being sieged up in a good line. And you can see the difference between kind of a mediocre line. We talked a lot about that mediocre tank line I had up at my natural, compared to an awesome position for his tanks to be. You know, I'm not sure that position will happen very often in a game. But that was very often. I will just back up a little bit so we can keep this rolling while I talk, because it's not fun to look at a screen that's not doing anything. So GosuDad signing out. Check out the blog at GosuDad.blogspot.com, and of course the Twitter at GosuDad. And we'll be continuing to cast these games from the ladder, and we'll be taking a break at some point to cast a game sent to me by Commander Tell, and that is coming up at some point. So GosuDad signing off, and we'll see you guys next time.